Those guys really know their stuff. How does Ben keep up with their banter? Stay tuned for segment 2 in your current phase.
Welcome back to segment 2 of our February episode, the In Your Phase Next Phase In Your Phase Network podcast. Say that 3 times fast. So we're here today again with Tom, TO of Old Town Throwdown, LVO, SoCal Open, all the big events. Jeremy Veysseire, the team captain for Team America and previous ITC champion. So to this segment, we're going to be focusing a lot on how to win today. So great guests focused on what's been relevant. Now we're going to have them show what you can do with that information. So to start, guys, let's talk about how do you win today in AOS, competitive AOS. Take us away, please, Tom.
Well, we were just talking about what's currently in the meta, and we're saying that dragons are taking over. So the obvious starting point is if you want to win today, you've got to come up with a way to take on dragons. I still think there's going to be a lot of mortal wound shooting out there as well. Long strikes are going to be popular, and bow snakes are still a thing until the new book comes out. And we've got, all the other shooting armies as well are still around. So you're going to have to deal somewhat with shooting, but we're not, as we were just saying, giants don't really exist in the meta anymore. So we don't have to worry so much about giants. But if you've got an army that's going to take on dragons, you can really take on giants anyway. Jeremy?
Yeah. So, I'll give you a context as I was describing earlier. I'm thinking about adding potentially dragons to my Carrion Overlord list because I think they help address some of the fallacies in the KO army, which is there is no monsters, and we're playing in Gur, and Gur is all about monsters. They also play well because they synergize with the speed of the army. They also give me opportunities to add mortal wounds and shooting, and that's at least a somewhat decent melee punch to the army. So all of those things are kind of like kind of a weird checkbox. That's what KO misses. Yeah, that's what KO misses. That's what KO so you go down, and all of a sudden dragons are not just good in KO. They're probably good in a lot of order lists. Period. I'm sure they could find themselves into a Sylvaneth army for all we know and still be pretty good. But in terms of what how to win today, it comes down to battle tactics. Fundamentally, I think the only thing that matters for most players is resolving how to pick the right battle tactics, because you could play against a dragon list and just get your shit stomped in. But if you can at least master the art of picking the battle tactic correctly on the right turn, you might still be able to pull out a win. Because those dragon lists, as much as they get a lot of help from being monster keyword, can still fail battle tactics. So how do you maximize the opportunity in which the dice gods have given upon you? So yeah, I'm gonna hit that again. Battle tactics.
I think that's particularly as more and more white dwarfs are coming out, and as the tomes come out, the not top level players, the intermediate levels players are not aware of what all of the battle tactics available to your army are. So you can have in mind, I'm going to be using this battle tactic next turn, and your opponent may not even realize that you can do that, and that's what you're aiming towards. So that's particularly strong right now.
So I think that leads great then into our next point, as we've touched on a little bit, is when I go to a tournament, how do I not get my ass kicked? How do I not get crushed?
Roll sixes.
That's it. That's it. You don't even need battle tactics, Tom. You just roll sixes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I often describe the American meta to foreigners as we are a tempo-based meta. We want to play the ideal decision on the best tempo plays we can make, which means I'm willing to give up resources in a way where it benefits me in that move. Which I know that sounds ridiculous because most players would think isn't that what everybody's doing? But not really. Some players are just I want to dictate the tempo on turn 1, and that's it. And I think the American meta is more around dictated tempo progressively through the game, and at least from the top players I see play. And I think that's what you need to mimic in America. Is can you master the decision making that matters not now but the next turn, right?
That's the captain of Team America giving his talk to his team thing. But for the average player, it starts with two simple things: know your army, know what it can do, and then know as many of the meta armies as possible, right? Yeah. It starts with knowledge, the game does.
Yeah.
The more that you know your army, the more you've practiced with your army and you know what it can do and what it cannot do, that's how you stop yourself getting crushed. And saying, if you go to a tournament, you're probably going to be facing dragons. So you got to know what dragons can do. They can hero phase move, they can hero phase charge, etc. If you don't know that, then you're in for a nasty surprise and you'll probably lose.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to piggyback a little bit of that because I want to point out that, like, do not punish yourself into thinking that because you didn't know something, that's how it lost you the game. No, just think of it this way: you did not know something. Now, what do you do with that knowledge for the next time, right? Like, it's about a path of self improvement. It's something I keep repeating to our current host here, Ben, all the time when we play. Is that, like, don't beat yourself for not knowing something. Always look for the out after you know something. Always consider that's the only way you're going to grow as a player, right? So,
okay, so Captain of Team America, how do I beat dragons? What do they do, and how do I beat them?
You have to manage to beat dragons. You have to consider how many basically bait options can you put forward against them, right? So some armies that just can't deal with dragons, period, right? So the ideal situation is when you look at that, output, can you play the game in a way where I can force feed him units with still maximizing my opportunity and scoring points on the board. And then if there is ever a possibility in which they're running out of optimal battle tactics that they can pick against me, can I take the lead away from that standpoint? And honestly, it does not feel good if you play those games. It feels like you're just getting, the proverbial, your shit pushed in, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're necessarily winning the game if you're playing in that mentality, because all you're doing is basically trying to dictate the points they're getting while also maximizing the points you're getting. And I know that sounds super abstract and not an exact game plan on how to beat dragons, but that's how you have to look at it when you get to the table. Sorry, Tom, don't have a better answer.
And I'm gonna interject here and just point out that at the time of recording, we are 5 days away from the next Old Town Throwdown, of which there are 47 players signed up. And I think, and as much as we've been talking about dragons, there were only 3 players who are bringing dragons. So it is entirely possible that you actually don't face dragons at all, and everything that you've been practicing and learning about dragons doesn't actually come up. And of those 3 dragon lists, none of them are Stormcast.
So why do you think that is, Tom? Why are we only going to see 3? Do you think that shift is already starting? People know too much against them?
I think maybe. I mean, again, it's only 47. It's not a 200-person event. So I think the local meta is a little bit different. We don't have that many dragon players, and the top dragon player in the area is actually TOing the event. So that's gone. There are, there's a lot of other things that are hot. We've got 5 Khorne demon princes. So, there's a lot of melee armies in general, actually. There's very little shooting and very little magic going on. It's going to be one big melee brawl. So Khorne demon princes are going to be bad. And there's 6 Kraggies. So
are you sure this is not Australia?
So we got 6 Kraggies going against 5 Khorne demon princes. There's going to be some disappointed rolling going on there.
Are those the princes that we see? Are those in the Legion of the First Prince?
There's a complete mixture. So let me just pull up my list. We've got 2 in Slaves of Darkness with Archaon. We've got one Legion of the First Prince only. We've got 1 in Beasts of Chaos, and then I'm the only Khorne player, so I'm bringing 1 because I'm Khorne.
There you go.
I like low-hanging fruits too, Tom. It's fine.
Yeah. Calling me the top Khorne player, it's not that difficult. There's only 3 of us playing last
year. I was going to piggyback a little briefly, if you'd let me, Ben. One of the things we didn't mention this segment is that from a previous segment is you still have to beat giants, and it didn't sound like there was a lot of giants player in that.
There's only 1 giant player coming. I mean, he is the guy who went 4-1 at LVO, so he knows what he's doing. But yeah.
All right.
And he's got Craggy as well.
That's awesome. I'm very bummed I'm going to miss that event. So then let's get some closing thoughts here, guys. That what again highlighting what's next. What do we need to do to win today in today's environment, despite the diverse metas of sometimes very heavy dragon, sometimes very heavy Khorne demon princes.
First, I don't. So one of the things I had to teach a lot of people recently, learning the game, trying to get good at the competitive meta, is don't reward your opponents for making one decision twice, which is basically when you think about the point of the game is scoring points, right? It's a very symmetrical game, so you want to make sure that every decision that he makes is asymmetrical. I'll give you an physical example of that. If you want to make sure you can maximize your chances of winning, don't maybe pick hold the line. Like hold the line might be like you're probably thinking, yeah, sure, it's the easiest one I can pick for grand strategy, but most of the time your battle line units are the things sitting on points. So you're basically maximizing your the opportunity for your opponent to punish you in two ways effectively. And then so maybe think outside the box. What if Predator's Domain is a good option? Like, have you considered Predator's Domain as an option in grand strategy? So if you want to win at AOS, in 3.0, think about forcing your opponent to make asymmetrical decisions on points.
I think that's an important point, is that the 3.0 point, in that the game that we are playing today, the meta today, it hasn't changed that much from 6 months ago. We're still playing 3.0. So the fundamentals of how to win today are the same as they were 6 months ago, and will probably be the same as they are up until the next GHB. And we'll see how that mixes these things up.
Awesome. I appreciate your thoughts, gentlemen. And we'll see you guys in the next phase.
I hope it's a mouthful.
That's a nice tagline out here. We'll see you in the next phase. That works.
And that is what it's going to take to win those games. Get ready for the changing meta in segment 3 in the next phase.